What's up, home team? You're in the basement with WKP. It has been said that Muhammad Ali is the greatest boxer that ever lived. My question has always been, what are those motivations that drives a person to want to be great? Their passion, their inspiration, that work ethic, that day in, day out, they work in search of nothing but greatness. When I was 5 years old, I had a conversation with my father. And I've only had 2 conversations with my father in my lifetime. Once when I was 5, and just recently about 2 years ago. And my father and I was on a walk. And for whatever reason, that walk led us to the banks of the Chattahoochee River. And the Chattahoochee River separates Georgia from Alabama. And you can cross over into Alabama by going over the bridge, or there's a set of train tracks that expands the length of the river. And for whatever reason that night, my father decided that we would take the train tracks. At 5 years old, I didn't have the mental capacity to even recognize that was a bad idea. At 5 years old, every idea seems like a good idea. And if you start to walk out on the train tracks across the river, if a train comes in either direction, you have to either jump into the river or try to outrun the train. And for the life of me, even to this day, I can't understand why my father chose that option. But as I recall, every step we would take out over the train tracks, he would turn around and ask me if I was afraid. And I would just simply look at him and say no. And he would take another few steps, he would turn around and ask me, was I afraid? And I would say no. In my 5-year-old mental capacity, I thought by me saying that I was not afraid, I was making my father proud. And that left an indelible mark on my psyche. Because by me not being afraid then, I would never be afraid another day in my life. And I never saw my father again after that until recently, about 2 years ago. And in the meantime, a lot of things have happened in my life. At some point, I decided I want to be a Marine. And I was influenced by another Marine. I was in the park playing basketball with some kids from the neighborhood. And for whatever reason, they wanted to fight me. Some hard fouls were given, some words was exchanged, and of course it led to a fight. But I didn't want to fight, so I sort of shied away from that. But the kids kept following me through the park. And as I was walking out the park, there was a Marine sitting over in the bleachers. And I recognized it was a Marine by the uniform. I've always been in love with that uniform. And that Marine motioned me over. And when I went over there, he said something that I never will forget. He said, sometimes you find trouble, and sometimes trouble finds you. And he said, looks like trouble's found you today. And he got up off the bleachers and he grabbed me by my belt. And when he grabbed me by my belt, he sort of pulled me in. He said, I know you don't want to, but you don't have to fight. You're going to have to fight. And he said, what I need you to do, I need you to walk back out there. And you walk back out there, you start unzipping your jacket. And when you start unzipping your jacket, he's going to unzip his. And he's going to start taking his jacket off. And when he starts taking his jacket off, you go to pounding. And I went to pounding. And it seems from that day, I've been pounding every day since. Pounding in a way, in an effort to search, to do something great, to be great. Just trying to make my father proud. I spent a lifetime trying to build that relationship with him. Searching. Trying to build that relationship. About 2 years ago, I get a call. And they said my father was in the hospital. And I probably should go see him. But at this point, about 40 years have passed. And I was wrestling back and forth on whether I wanted to make that trip to see him. And I talked to a co-worker about it. And she said, you probably should go. If you didn't, you would probably regret it. So I made the drive down to the hospital to see him. And when I walked into the hospital room, he was laying in bed, he was asleep. So I walked over, took a seat, started watching television. A couple of hours went by and he woke up. He woke up and he started looking around the room. And he saw me sitting over there. And I asked him, I said, you know who I am? And he said, no. I said, I'm your son. And he said, you're my son. And all the while he was asleep, I was sitting there thinking about the things that I was going to say. Telling about the great things I had done in my life. That I had been a Marine. That I had been a police officer. That I competed in the highest levels of bodybuilding. That I authored a book. That I owned my own business. That I tried to treat people right. But I never imagined that the conversation would lead me to trying to convince him that I was his son. And for whatever reason, after a few minutes, I just got up and I left. And I came back to Atlanta. The next day, I got a call saying that my father had died. So in my life, I've had 2 conversations with my dad. But it seems that the conversation I had with him when I was 5 was the most meaningful conversation. Because it seems from that point, I would never be afraid. I would never be scared of anything. Never. And I guess you're wondering why I'm having this conversation. I'm having this conversation because there are young boys growing up in the situation that I grew up in, without a father. And we need to have conversations about them being great. I spent the majority of my life training police officers and having conversations with them about being great human beings. And we need to have a conversation with young men. Everybody can't be a baller. Everybody can't be a rapper. But we can do small, meaningful things. We all can serve. So I say this, that if you know a young man, pull him to the side and whisper in his ear that he can be great. This is WKP, you in the lab. Peace.